All right, class, today we're going to learn about the constant velocity formula. This is a formula that you probably are already familiar with in your everyday life. Say, for example, I told you guys you're driving 60 miles an hour for 2 hours. How far did you go? You would know to multiply those two. 60 times 2, you'd go 120 miles per hour. So you know this formula. This formula in your head is distance equals velocity times time. So that's the formula that's going to work with objects traveling at a constant speed. And that's the formula right here. Let's go ahead and I'll give you some definitions and some units, then we'll get ahead on solving a few of these problems. So V is going to stand for velocity or speed. That's going to be measured in something like a meter per second, a mile per hour, or a kilometer per hour. Those are very common speeds. When we have D, that's going to be distance, and that's going to be measured in meters or possibly feet, or kilometers, or centimeters. And time is going to be measured in usually hours, maybe minutes, and a lot of times seconds. Now, if you look, there are other forms of this equation, like right here and like right here. And what we've done for you is we've rearranged that main equation to solve for velocity, which is distance over time, or to solve for time, which is distance over velocity. When I go ahead and solve these problems, I usually use this main equation, distance equals velocity times time, and I go from there. I'm going to go ahead and solve these first three problems, and then your assignment's going to be to go ahead and finish the rest of them for homework. Number one says Kelly's on a boat that's traveling 64 kilometers in 3.5 hours of time. What was her speed? So I'm going to go ahead and write out my givens. So she traveled 64 kilometers. That's my distance. Kilometers are distances. 3.5 hours of time, so 3.5 hours. And I don't know her speed, so I'm going to put a question mark. Now, when I solve these problems, I always write out my equation, d equals v times t, and then I plug in the numbers that I know. So the distance is 64. The velocity, I'll just leave as v, and the time, I don't know, is 3.5. Now, hopefully from junior high, you remember that to get v by itself, you would go ahead and divide by 3.5. And then you would just go to your calculator and do 64 divided by 3.5, and I get about 18 point, I'll round it to 2 decimal spots, 18.29, but we got to put units. That's really important. So we have to tell your teacher exactly what that is, whether it's miles per hour, meters per second, and we did kilometers divided by hours to get our answers. So that is kilometers over hours. So make sure you're looking at your units in your problem to make sure you know what unit should be on your answer. Next one. Jessica and Lucy are driving in their car at 72 miles per hour for 9.5 hours. How far did they go? So their velocity is the miles per hour. 72, I'll put mph. The time is 9.5 hours, and I don't know how far they went. So again, I'll write out my equation. And what's good about this one is that I don't have to rearrange anything or divide. I can just put in my velocity of 72 and my time of 9.5. And all I have to do is just go to my calculator, and I get 684. But again, you have to put a unit. Is that feet? Is that inches? What is that? And in this case, we have to look for the distance in the problem. And they were going 72 miles per hour. So our answer has to be 684 miles. Last one. A toy car travels 343 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's my distance. It takes 9 seconds of time. What was the average velocity? So I don't know my v. So again, I'll go d equals v times t. And I'll do 343 equals v times 9. And again, I'm going to have to divide both sides by 9 to get v by itself. And 343 divided by 9 is 38.1. Again, I'm looking to see what my units are. So it's got to be a distance over a time. It's got to be like a mile over hour. In this case, we did centimeters over seconds. All right, I'm going to stop there. your goal is to go ahead and finish the rest of those problems for homework. See ya.